We're testing, we're testing, we're
Mhm.
testing. It's a total eclipse of the heart, Chaos Kids. I'm Amber.
Okay. And I'm Naomi, and this is Crime, Wine, and Chaos.
It sure is.
Oh, man.
Mm,
Is that
sister.
foreshadowing or just funsies?
It's foreshadowing.
Okay. All right.
Mhm,
Great.
mhm.
I'm
Oh,
always well, I always look forward to your stories, but now
thank
I'm
you.
super curious.
Curious.
Yeah, I'm curious. What's going on,
Yeah.
sister?
Well, I'm back from Montana.
Mhm.
Um, I got you know what? I have a lot to say, but I feel like maybe off the air another time.
But you could have said off the air before we got on the air.
I just now thought of it. No, it's not inappropriate for on air. We were
No,
just
it's
talking
just
about how you're on a time crunch
I am.
in your personal life. So maybe we'll put a pin in that for next episode.
Okay,
Does
fair.
that sound good?
That sounds great.
Okay, great.
Um, but you had a good time. You got to see your bestie in
Uh-huh.
3D space.
That's right. That's right. I touched her.
And you got to meet one of our fans in person.
That's right. That's right.
Which one
Christy.
was it?
It
Christy.
was
Okay.
Christy. She's amazing. And I got to
Mhm.
see Faith again.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good times.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, I'm drinking some red wine that's been opened for too long. I'm drinking some vinegar.
Okay.
It's called Colossal.
I feel like you've had that before.
I have. Yep.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we have 3 new Chaos Kids.
Since the last time we recorded? Well, it's been a couple
Yes.
weeks since we recorded, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have 3 new
We
Chaos
have
Kids Club members.
thrice. We have Patty.
Hi, Patty.
Hey, Patty. Hey, girl. Hey. We have Charlie.
Charlie from New Zealand?
Yeah.
Question mark?
I
Exclamation
love
point?
a New Zealand accent.
That's incredible.
That's incredible. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
And we have Johnny Whiz.
Johnny Whiz!
Oh,
Johnny, you have no idea how happy that makes me.
amazing.
So glad to have you, all of you, as part of the Chaos Kids Club. Every time, you guys don't understand, we've said this before, but every time we get a new club member, Amber sends me a text with a screenshot and we both do a little happy dance. And woo!
Woo!
Mhm. It's very exciting. So
It really is.
glad to have you.
Yes, welcome.
Do we have any other announcements for the good of the order, sister?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't
Well,
think so.
I have a crime for you.
Yes, please.
Okay. And you probably know this one kind of,
Mm.
probably, but I'm going to tell you about the stalking and murder of Rebecca Schaeffer.
Oh, the TV star.
Mhm.
Oh, I just got chills.
Oh,
Okay.
I haven't even started yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, well here we go. Rebecca
Okay.
Schaeffer was born in November of 1967 in Eugene, Oregon.
Mm.
She was the only child of Dana and Benson Schaeffer. Dana was a writer and a teacher at Willamette University and Portland Community College, and Benson worked as a child psychologist.
Okay.
Rebecca was very close with both her parents. Benson described her as a very easy child who was just capable. She could pretty much just do whatever she set out to do. When she
Mhm.
was a toddler, they asked her if she thought she could keep her diaper dry, and that was that. She was potty trained.
Oh my gosh. Wow. She's like, "Yeah, I can. I'll show
Yeah,
you."
sure. When she was 6, her dad taught her how to ride horses. She learned quite easily. In 5th grade, her parents told her that they thought she should get good grades, and when she asked them why, they told her because they wanted her to. And she said, "Okay." And then she got good grades.
Wow.
Like she was
Uh-huh.
that kid. Rebecca's friends described her as silly and very outgoing. She was small physically, but her personality was big.
Mhm.
The Schaeffers spent Rebecca's early years in Eugene before moving to Portland in 1980, where Rebecca went to Lincoln High School. Rebecca was popular, but not because she tried to be. She was interested in drama, and she was the lead in one of the school plays. She was raised Jewish, and at one point she thought she wanted to be a rabbi when she grew up.
Okay. Okay,
But
Rebecca.
she started modeling her junior year in high school after someone told her she really ought to be modeling. Rebecca
Mhm.
walked into a local modeling agency in Portland, and the woman running the agency said she was fresh faced, just magical, effervescent, charismatic. Before she even spoke, this woman knew that Rebecca had it.
Mhm.
She landed shoots for department store catalogs, she did some TV commercials, and she was even an extra in some kind of made for TV movie. At the age of 16, in the summer of 1984, she took a huge leap and packed up and moved on her own to New York City to pursue her dreams.
Wow.
She called her dad one day and he recalls her saying to him, "Do you remember what you said to me, Dad? Sometimes you have to choose between adventure and regret."
Okay. Wow. That's actually a really wise thing for dad to say.
Mm-hmm. So Rebecca was signed on by Elite Model Management, and her parents allowed her to stay in the city to continue to pursue a modeling career.
Mm.
While in New York, she attended Professional Children's School, which is a nonprofit college prep school founded in 1914, geared toward working and aspiring child performers. Rebecca also landed a short term role on the daytime soap Guiding Light.
Oh, God.
In late 1984, Rebecca was cast in the role of Annie Barnes on another daytime soap, One Life to Live, for a stint that lasted 6 months. Rebecca loved being on the show. Her co stars found her to be remarkably good for someone so young. She had a confidence and a presence that exudes on the screen.
Mhm.
While working on the soap, she also kept on with her modeling pursuits. Rebecca was considered too short for high fashion modeling, being only 5'7" tall, so she struggled to get booked. In 1985, after her role on One Life to Live was done, she moved to Japan briefly, hoping that she could get more modeling work there. But even in Japan, she was considered too short. And she weighed too much.
Okay. Well, fuck. That's a weird thing. The whole short thing is weird, right?
I mean, don't even get me started on the fashion industry and couture and designers and all of that
Yeah.
bullshit. Do not even get
Okay.
me started. They basically want walking coat hangers.
Yeah. Barbie in real life. They
But,
want
like, not
Barbie.
even Barbie, because Barbie has boobs.
That's true. Coat hangers. Ugh.
Um, excuse me. Discouraged, she returned to New York to focus on acting instead. In 1986, she got herself a small role on Woody Allen's comedy Radio Days, but her character was edited out almost completely, save for one brief scene. She kept modeling and even worked as a waitress. She appeared on the cover of 17 magazine, which caught the attention of TV producers who were in that moment casting for a new primetime sitcom called My Sister Sam, starring Pam Dauber.
Mhm.
By the mid 80s, Pam Dauber was a household name. She starred opposite Robin Williams in Mork and Mindy, which was, of course, a massive hit in the
Right.
70s and 80s.
Yeah.
The premise of the show was that a teenager, Patty, played by
Patty.
Rebecca, played by Rebecca, moves from Oregon to San Francisco to live with her 29-year-old sister Samantha after their parents die. Rebecca was perfect for the role. Most agreed she even looked like she could be Pam Dauber's sister. Going from a short run on a soap to a primetime show was almost unheard of, especially for someone so young.
Right.
Rebecca was clearly a rising star. Pam and Rebecca hit it off instantly. Rebecca moved to LA to film the show, and she even lived with Pam Dauber and her husband, Mark Harmon, during her work on the series.
Oh, that's cool. Is he related to Phil Harmon?
Hartman? That's
Oh,
Phil
Hartman.
Hartman.
Okay. 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 All right.
Sister.
Mm,
Um, Pam kind of took Rebecca on because she was just a kid and she didn't have anywhere to stay in LA. She
right.
didn't know anyone out there
Those weird apartments where all the LA kids stay, like, by themselves or whatever.
or whatever. So she
Yeah.
didn't do that.
Mhm.
My Sister Sam was a hit. The show was aired between Kate Nally and the Bob Newhart show, which were two huge hits in the 80s. So My Sister Sam got really good ratings.
Mhm.
Rebecca and Sam were even on the cover of TV Guide, which used to actually be a thing. Like it had 40 million readers a week and was the number one magazine in the US at the time.
Right.
Okay, so for our younger listeners, magazines are these paper products,
Oh my gosh.
kind of like a book, but flimsier.
Mhm.
Rebecca did all the interviews and all the extras that CBS wanted her to do, including Thanksgiving Day parade broadcasts. Rebecca started a relationship with a UCLA film student named Brad Silberlin, who she met on a blind date. Brad would go on to become a successful Hollywood director. At the time they started dating, Rebecca was 19 and Brad was 23. Their relationship was serious pretty quickly. Driving around LA, Rebecca would point out houses that the two could live in together.
Yeah.
She didn't really see herself as a celebrity.
Mm.
She certainly didn't live as if she recognized her celebrity status. She was too busy, like, living her life, meeting people, having a good time, working on her career. And the one piece of advice that Pam gave her was that because she was on this hit show now, she needed to make sure to never put her real name on her mailbox.
Oh, that's good advice. That also has to be a weird feeling because it also came on so quickly for her
Right? And
that
she's so young.
and she's so young. Yeah. Mm.
One day on set, Rebecca was in her trailer when one of the security guards called her to let her know that there was a man that showed up to the set that had presents for her, and he was saying that he knows Rebecca. She said she didn't know who that was, and she didn't really think anything of it.
Mhm.
Rebecca was wise beyond her years in a lot of ways, but naive in a lot of other ways. She was very trusting and she had an open heart.
Mhm.
Rebecca was super excited when she started getting fan mail. She told a friend, "Look, I'm getting fan mail and it's great. And they're telling me their problems and I'm answering them back and it's wonderful."
Oh,
And her friend told her she should not be answering them back. Like, the most that she should do is like just her signature on a headshot.
yeah.
But Rebecca insisted it was fun for her and these fans wanted to be
Mhm.
friends with her. And she didn't understand that these were not her friends.
This is the original parasocial relationship.
Yes.
Mhm.
My Sister Sam was picked up for a second season, but was canceled midway through season 2 in April 1988 when its ratings fell. Rebecca went on to act in supporting roles in a few films and served as a spokesperson for a children's charity called Thursday's Child, which provides support to kids, teens, and young adults with issues including child abuse, trafficking, bullying, eating disorders, and other things.
Mhm.
On the morning of July 18th, 1989, Rebecca was at home preparing for an audition for The Godfather Part 3.
Wow.
She had a meeting set that afternoon with Francis Ford Coppola to be considered for the role of Mary Corleone, the daughter of the film's protagonist, Michael Corleone.
Shit.
Rebecca lived alone in her apartment. And despite the seriousness of their relationship, she and Brad had not yet moved in together. Someone rang her doorbell and she was expecting the script to be delivered.
Mhm.
So she answered the door because her intercom was not working at the time.
Mm.
At the door was a man holding a manila envelope. Inside the envelope was not the script, but instead one of her own autographed headshots and a letter she had written in response to a fan letter.
Mhm.
After a short conversation where she realized the fan she'd written back to was the man standing on her doorstep, she told the man not to come to her home again and closed the door.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder how he knew where was she putting her return address on the fan mail?
No.
Okay, okay.
About an hour later, her doorbell rang again. Rebecca answered with a cold look on her face, wearing a black bathrobe. It was about 10:15 a.m. The man pulled out a handgun and shot Rebecca in the chest at point blank range in the doorway of her apartment building.
Mm.
One neighbor heard the shot and a scream. Other neighbors rushed to the scene where they saw Rebecca collapsed and dying on the doorstep. She kept saying, "Why? Why?"
Oh.
The killer had already fled the scene. Someone called 911 and Rebecca was rushed to the emergency room of Cedars-Sinai Medical Center where she was pronounced dead about half an hour after her arrival.
Oh.
The next day, in Tucson, Arizona, a man was picked up wandering aimlessly in traffic on the I-10. He was apparently planning a suicide attempt and was arrested into Pima County Jail, where he immediately confessed to the murder of Rebecca Schaeffer.
Mhm.
The man was Robert John Bardo. Robert Bardo was the youngest of June and Philip Bardo's 7 children. June was a native of Japan and met Philip when he was in the U.S. Air Force and stationed there. The family moved often and finally settled in Tucson, Arizona in 1983. Robert had a troubled upbringing, allegedly abused by one of his siblings, and he had threatened neighbors and classmates. He had been placed in foster care after he threatened to kill himself.
Mm.
Robert's whole family had a history of mental illness, and he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Robert spent a month at the age of 15 in a mental health facility. According to one of his teachers, Robert was, quote, a time bomb on the verge of exploding.
Oh, God.
He dropped out of Pueblo Magnet High School in the 9th grade and got a job as a janitor at Jack in the Box. By the time he was 19, he was still working at Jack in the Box. Robert was a loner with no friends.
Mm.
Robert had stalked child peace activist Samantha Smith, who had become famous for her anti war outreaches during the Cold War between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. She had famously written a letter directly to Gorbachev. When she returned home to Maine from a visit to the Soviet Union, Robert decided to travel to Maine to meet her, but had a run in with state police over a traffic stop. This spooked him, thinking he was drawing too much attention to himself, so he returned to Tucson.
Mm.
Robert was working on another plan to meet Samantha in person, but she tragically died in a plane crash in 1985.
Oh, gosh.
He briefly focused his stalking energy on pop stars Tiffany and Debbie Gibson, but he couldn't find a feasible way to carry out any of his plans to encounter them in New York City, where he would most likely find them. And then he saw Rebecca Schaeffer on My Sister Sam, and he was obsessed.
Oh, my God.
Quote, she came into my life in the right moment. She was brilliant, pretty, outrageous. Her innocence impressed me. She turned into a goddess for me, an idol. Since then, I turned an atheist. I only adored her.
Yikes. Also, it's weird that he's just cycling through like any female celebrity his age to become fixated on.
I guess
It's weird. Yeah,
he
he's
wrote,
unwell.
he is not okay.
Mhm.
He wrote numerous letters to Rebecca. Then he flew to LA and tried to gain access to the set of the filming of the show. He brought a huge teddy bear and flowers to the gates of Warner Brothers Studios in Burbank with the full intention of meeting Rebecca there, but was denied entry at the lot.
Mhm.
Robert would later say he recalls the first time he saw Rebecca on TV when he was watching Magnum PI and a commercial for My Sister Sam came on. So he watched the show and found her to be very outgoing and bubbly. He taped every episode of the show. He taped her when she was on the CBS Thanksgiving Day Parade. He wrote a number of fan letters to Rebecca, and she responded to one of them
Mhm.
by saying, quote, yours was one of the nicest that I got.
Oh.
On her letter, she drew a peace sign, a heart, and signed it with love from Rebecca.
Oh, no.
The day Robert received the letter, he wrote in his diary, when I think of her, I would like to become famous to impress her.
Mhm.
And this response letter and the way she wrote it for Robert meant that Rebecca reciprocated the feelings that he had.
Uh-huh.
It was the summer of 1987 that he bought a plane ticket to Burbank Airport with the intention of meeting Rebecca on the Warner Brothers lot. He came back to the lot a month later. This time he had a knife, but he was again prevented from gaining access to the studio. In his diary, he wrote, quote, I don't lose, period.
Oh, God.
He went back to Tucson and lost focus on Rebecca for a while, returning his attention to Tiffany and Debbie Gibson and also Madonna. Then in 1989, Robert saw Rebecca in a black comedy film titled Scenes from the Class Struggle in Beverly Hills. In it, Rebecca appeared in bed with another actor. This enraged Robert and made him jealous, and he decided that Rebecca needed to be punished for becoming, quote, another Hollywood whore.
Oh my God. This guy is Delulu.
Mm. He drew a diagram of her body and marked the spots where he planned to shoot her. He asked his older brother Edgar to buy him a gun. He bombarded Rebecca with tons of love letters. He covered his room with dozens of glossy photos of her. He mailed a concerning letter to his sister in Tennessee telling her if he couldn't have Rebecca, no one else would.
Oh, gosh.
He got on a Greyhound bus, this time headed back to LA to track her down. On July 17th, he called her agent's office and tried to find where she lived. He was refused this information. He roamed the streets, flashing her photo and asking random strangers on the sidewalk if they knew her address.
Seriously. Oh.
Another stalker gave Robert an idea. Arthur Richard Jackson had stalked and stabbed Teresa Saldana in 1983, and Robert learned that Arthur Jackson had hired a private investigator to track her down.
Mm.
So Robert found himself a detective agency and paid $250 to obtain Rebecca's home address in the Fairfax district from the California's Department of Motor Vehicles records.
Wow.
Ironically, he didn't need to do that because at the time, for about $1, a person could go into the California DMV office, fill out a form stating who you are, what person you want information on, the reason, and how you intend to use it. And even if you lied, the information would be given to you on the spot.
Wow. That's fucking unreal. That is unreal.
So now that Robert had Rebecca's address, the next day, dressed in a yellow polo shirt, he went to her apartment. According to his own account, when she came to the door that second time, quote, she had this kid voice, sounded like a little brat or something, said I was wasting her time. Wasting her time. No matter what, I thought that was a very callous thing to say to a fan, you know? I grabbed the door, gun's still in the bag. I grab it by the trigger. I come around and kapow, and she's like screaming, ah, screaming, why? Ah. And it's like, oh God.
Whoa. This guy.
Rebecca's body was shipped back to Oregon for burial. Robert was extradited to California, where he was housed in a sensitive needs unit for inmates such as gang members, notorious prisoners, and sex offenders.
So, did his brother actually purchase the gun for him?
Yes.
And his sister, he's getting this weird call from his sister, and his family isn't like, "Dude, what are you doing?"
No.
That's too bad. Wow.
A year after the murder, Robert gave an interview where he said, quote, I was a fan of hers and I may have carried it too far, but a lot of things have appeared in the press to make me out to be a monster. If I had one wish where if it was to ever come true, it would be for Rebecca Schaeffer to be alive today.
Okay.
How many times have we heard somebody say, the press is making me out to be a monster?
I know. It's like, you are a monster. What do you mean?
What's that thing? Like, if you don't want people to if you don't want people to say bad things about you, then
Mhm.
don't do bad things or whatever. Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
Robert Bardo's trial commenced 2 years after Rebecca's murder in 1991. The lead prosecutor was Marcia Clark, one of
Oh.
LA's star prosecutors.
Mhm.
This was pre-OJ, of
Sure,
course.
sure, sure.
The prosecution waived the death penalty and the defense waived a jury. This would be a bench trial.
Wow, that's a bold move.
The defense leaned very heavily on a mental health defense. His attorneys did not contest his guilt, but instead argued that Robert was mentally ill.
Yeah, for sure.
During his trial, he claimed the U2 song Exit was an influence on the murder, and the song was played in the courtroom as evidence.
Okay. What?
And Robert lip synced the lyrics while it
No,
played.
I'm uncomfortable. That just gave me the tingles. That gave me third party embarrassment. Mm, stop it. I actually thought you were gonna say that the defense attorney sang it, which would be worse.
He pulled out a guitar and sang it.
Like karaoke. Like, wow, not necessary.
Forensic psychiatrist Park Dietz testified for the defense. Dr. Dietz has consulted or testified in many of the highest profile U.S. criminal cases, including mass murderer Jared Lee Loughner and serial killers Joel Rifkin, Arthur Shawcross, Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Kaczynski, Richard
Shit.
Kolklinski, the DC sniper attacks, William Bonin, and Crime, Wine, and Chaos alum Betty Broderick.
Holy shit. Wow.
He testified that Robert had schizophrenia and that his illness directly led to his having committed the murder. The security guard that had barred Robert entry onto the Warner Brothers lot testified. He said he told Robert to stay away from the studio lot and Rebecca, and then asked Robert how he'd gotten out there that day. Robert
Mhm.
told the guard he'd taken a bus, and the security guard said he didn't want him to have to ride all the way back to his hotel on a bus with that giant teddy bear, so he actually gave Robert a ride back to his hotel.
Oh, shit. Well, that was nice of him. A little dangerous in hindsight, but that's thoughtful.
Edgar, his brother Edgar testified he was the one who bought Robert the gun after he had been turned away from the studio. The prosecution was trying to show premeditation, and the gun purchase pointed to that.
For sure. Yeah.
Right. Robert's father, Philip, testified that when he was watching CNN and saw that Rebecca had been killed, he had Edgar run to go see if the pistol was still in the house. And that's when they saw that it was gone. And he, just kind of knew it was possible that his son had been the killer. Like, literally, he was like, hey, go see if the gun is still in the house.
That's pretty bad. That's pretty telling.
That's right.
Mhm.
Robert Bardo was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole on December 20th, 1991. Robert told the judge, quote, "The idea I killed her for fame is totally ridiculous. I do realize the magnitude of what I've done. I do think it needs to be compounded by a bunch I don't think it needs to be compounded by a bunch of lies because she's an actress."
Okay.
Uh-huh. A year later, in an interview with 48 Hours from his prison cell, he claimed that he had originally not intended to kill Rebecca, but to kill himself, and she would have lived if she had done what he told her to do.
Oh, okay.
It also came to light that Robert
Oh.
had carried a red paperback copy of The Catcher in
Mhm.
the Rye when he murdered Rebecca that day, and he tossed it onto the roof of a building while he was running from the murder scene.
Mhm.
He insisted it was merely a coincidence. He was not trying to emulate Mark David Chapman, who
Not
famously
at
carried
all.
a copy of the novel with him when he shot John Lennon in 1980.
Sure. Mhm.
Chapman later claimed in interviews that he had received letters from Robert Bardo before Rebecca's murder, letters in which Robert asked about life in prison.
Whoa. Shit.
Mhm. The stalking and murder of Rebecca Schaeffer is considered the turning point in anti-stalking legislation across the country. Rebecca's murder and the Teresa Saldana assault case provoked Governor George Dukmagin, the governor at the time of California, to
Mhm.
sign a law that prohibited the DMV from releasing addresses and inspired the Los Angeles Police Department to create the first threat management team. The same week that Rebecca was murdered, 26-year-old Tina Marie Ledbetter was in court pleading not guilty of sending more than 5,000 letters, including death threats to Michael J. Fox. She was allegedly upset because he'd gotten married.
Oh. Oh, no.
The
Wow.
California law was passed in 1990 and became effective on the first day of 1991. The law was the first of its kind and later helped to convict Jonathan Norman, who was sentenced to 25 years in prison for attempting to carry out threats against director Steven Spielberg.
Shit.
According to the legislation, a stalker is defined as, quote, someone who willfully, maliciously, and repeatedly follows or harasses another victim and who makes a credible threat with the intent to place the victim or victim's immediate family in fear of their safety.
Mhm.
And there must be at least two incidents to constitute the crime and show a continuity of purpose or credible threat. By 1993, all states, as well as Canada, put anti stalking laws into effect.
Good.
On July 27th, 2007, 18 years after Rebecca's death, Robert was stabbed 11 times on his way to breakfast in the maximum security unit at Mule Creek State Prison. 2 shivs were found at the scene. He was treated at the UC Davis Medical Center and returned to prison. The
Oh.
suspect in the attack was another convict, serving 82 years to life
I mean, how old was he? 5 when he was
for
convicted?
second-degree
Yeah, I
murder.
know. What's the point? Yeah, okay.
At his sentencing hearing, at Dana Schaeffer said to Robert Bardo, "Be happy in jail."
Mhm.
and that is the
Wow.
stalking and murder of Rebecca Schaeffer.
Wow. I cannot believe that you could just go to the DMV and get an address. That is wild to me
Isn't
that
that
that was
fucked up?
ever a thing.
That was a thing until the '90s.
That is wild. And after I was thinking about it, like, I can see the benefit of having a bench trial when the victim is a celebrity, because that probably really is gonna be hard not to have unbiased jurors who are like, "Oh, they were so
Right.
beloved," you know?
Right, because I and it was the defense that wanted that. I think the defense
Mhm.
has to ask for that or petition for that,
Right.
or that's not something they
Mhm.
normally decide for you, like, the defense
Mhm.
asked for that, but yes.
That makes sense.
I think they also were hoping that by doing that, there was, like, some kind of it was like a give and take, like, "We'll take off the death penalty if you agree to a bench trial." Like, I'm not
Okay.
sure, but it seemed like some kind of negotiation between the prosecution and the defense.
God, he was very unwell.
Yes.
I don't understand obsession and stalking.
I
It's
don't
hard for
either.
me to wrap my head around.
I don't either.
Ugh. Wow. Wow. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Okay. Let me dust off my readers here.
Dust them off? What do you
Well,
mean? You wear them every day.
clean my lenses.
How
Clean
dusty
my
is your house?
listen. I
Not as
don't know.
dusty as mine, I promise you that.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. You ready for a chaos?
Always.
Okay. I'm going to tell you about Sonny Graham and Terry Cottle.
Okay.
Okay.
I was sorry, mid-yawn.
I know you're
I'm a
mid
little
yawn. You
um,
sounded worried.
my cheeks are very warm. I'm not sure what's going on here. I've been
Oh,
working hard today.
I'm sorry,
No,
sister.
it's fine. It's good.
Okay. We are going to Vidalia, Georgia, April 1st, 2008.
Okay.
Sonny Graham drank his coffee that morning. He had a normal day planned. He was going to run his family landscaping business, take his 9-year-old stepson to the dentist, normal stuff.
Sure, sure.
He was 69 years old. He had been alive 13 years longer than he was supposed to be because he had gotten a second chance at life in a hospital operating room in 1995. And by almost every visible measure, he had really embraced this second chance. But before he left for the dentist, he walked into his backyard shed, picked up a 12 gauge Remington shotgun, pointed it to the right side of his throat, and pulled the trigger.
With a shotgun?
Mhm.
That's not easy to do.
No, because those are like long, right?
Yeah.
Are my glasses crooked? It's
No,
hard
your
to say.
face is, remember?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My whole last, I know it's
I'm kidding.
getting,
I'm totally
no,
kidding.
no, it's okay.
You're
It's
fine.
true.
You're not
It was April Fool's Day, exactly 13 years almost to the day since the suicide of a 33-year-old man in South Carolina named Terry Cottle. Terry Cottle grew up without a lot of advantages. He had dropped out of high school, got his GED, and worked whatever jobs were available. By his 30s, he had a real estate license and had recently become an EMT. What he also had was a talent for loving people more than the situation warranted. He had left his first wife and 2 daughters for a woman named Cheryl Sweat, the daughter of his boss, a petite woman with auburn hair and hazel eyes who was herself just coming out of a marriage.
okay.
Terry filed for divorce from his first wife, and 9 days after the divorce was granted in May of 1989, he and Cheryl were married. 9 days.
Uh-huh.
At first, things seemed good. Terry adopted Cheryl's 2 sons from her first marriage, Christopher and Timmy. Later on, they had a daughter, Jessica. Terry worked while Cheryl studied for her nursing degree. They moved from a single wide trailer to a new double wide in Monk's Corner, South Carolina, around Christmas of 1994. But it seemed like it was never enough for Cheryl. She was perpetually unhappy that Terry didn't make enough money, and she complained about it constantly, and it really left Terry feeling like a failure.
Mhm.
Terry eventually moved out and in with his sister Tammy. But before too long, Cheryl started coming around again, like cooking dinner and staying the night. And Tammy was pregnant with her second kid and needed the extra room for a nursery. So she told Terry, like, hey, make a decision. Either go home to your wife or whatever, but like none of this half in, half out shit. Right.
Mhm.
So he moved out of his sister's house, went home to Cheryl. But 3 weeks later, on March 15th, 1995, shit started falling apart again. They had a big fight. And again, Cheryl was basically telling Terry that he was a loser because of his salary. Her son Timmy, who was there, later recalled watching his mother take off her wedding ring and throw it out into the yard over the fence.
Oh,
Mhm. She's a bit of a diva.
it sounds like it.
Mhm. A little bit of a diva. The following morning, Terry was packing up his belongings and getting ready to leave, presumably for good this time, when he walked into the bathroom with his gun and held it to his head and shot himself just behind his right ear.
Oh my god.
Mhm. He was rushed to the trauma center at the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston. He survived for 4 days, but on March 20th, at the urging of her father-in-law, Cheryl agreed to take Terry off of life support. He was 33 years old.
Ugh.
I know. About 60 miles southwest of where Terry had just passed away, 57-year-old man Remus T. Graham, aka Sonny, got the
Uh-huh.
call he had been waiting for more than a year.
It's his heart.
Mhm, mhm. Sonny Graham was, by all accounts, someone who filled up whatever room he walked into. He had grown up in Lyons, Georgia, near Vidalia, and built a life on Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, where he became the longtime manager of the central plant for Hargray Communications, the island's telephone service provider. He knew just about everyone on Hilton Head. The local high school football field was named in his honor. And for 4 years, he had run the communications operations at the Heritage Golf Tournament at Sea Pines, one of the island's biggest annual events. So he's a real pillar of the community, this guy.
Mhm.
Mhm. He was a redhead, a veteran of the U.S. Air Force, an avid hunter, and a fisherman. His closest friend, Bill Carson, described him simply as a man's man. He and his wife, Elaine, had been married for more than 30 years. They had two children, Gray and Michelle. In 1994, a virus damaged Sonny's heart muscle. Sonny, who had been fit and athletic his entire life, found himself struggling to get up from a chair. His heart was failing, and he went on the transplant plant list and waited.
Oh, man.
I know. And
Brutal.
mhm. Then on March 20th, 1995, he got the call. A heart had become available, which was Terry Cottle's heart. It turned out it was about as close to a perfect match as a transplant could possibly be,
Wow.
and the surgery saved Sonny's life. Within 6 months of the transplant, Sonny was well enough to take a fishing trip to Alaska, and he joked to Bill Carson that having a 33-year-old's heart had done wonders for his energy. When a doctor suggested that he might want to see a counselor to process any guilt about having benefited from another person's death, Sonny declined. He said, I'm sorry the other guy died, but this is my heart now.
Mhm.
But friends noticed something different about Sonny after the transplant. Nothing super dramatic, just small things that didn't quite add up. He suddenly had a new craving for beer, which he never drank beer before.
Mhm.
He suddenly loved hot dogs, which he used to not like.
Mhm.
But hot dogs were Terry Cottle's favorite food,
Mhm.
and he also had a restlessness about him.
Uh-huh.
Mhm. Do you have thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've heard of stuff like this.
I have too, yeah.
Uh-huh.
The phenomenon,
Something like a
thing like the
phenomenon.
phenomenon. Totally, thank you.
Why are there certain words that you just can't say normal? I
I
don't
don't know, I don't know. That's one of them, though.
I know.
It's so funny too because my mouth wanted to do it, and I was like, "No, no, no.
I did it for you.
Thank you."
You're welcome.
So, this phenomenon is called cellular memory, the idea that transplanted organs can carry something of their donor's personality or preferences, though it's not accepted by any kind of medical science.
Okay, first of all, the medical science, what they mean is white Western medicine, like science, because white men
The journal
don't,
Science.
right? Because white
It's never been
Be
published in
because
Science.
white men of Western nations, like colonizer nations, do not recognize these things are possible or happen. Like, it's like, okay, it's tangential, but it's related to the same phenomenon or
Mhm,
trope. It's like that trope in every single horror film, not everyone, but lots of, like, when it's a haunting and the
mhm,
wife and the kids keep telling the dad that there's something going on in the house and the dad doesn't believe them.
mhm,
You know what I mean?
mhm.
It's that thing. It's that
Right,
thing.
right. Mhm, mhm. Okay. Well,
It's
you
like
know,
how
there
they say, like, when you're pregnant and you crave certain things, like, it doesn't mean anything, and it's like, the fuck it doesn't. The fuck it doesn't mean anything. When I was pregnant, I craved cottage cheese for, like, the first 3 months of my pregnancy. I had not eaten cottage cheese or any dairy in, like, years before I got pregnant, and then there was this period of, like, 3 months when I was eating, like, a tub of cottage cheese every fucking day. Tell me there wasn't something in there that my body fucking wanted.
Well, yeah, and to piggyback onto that, when I was pregnant, I could not eat any meat, and all I wanted was cheese all the time.
Uh-huh.
And then for many years, and even still, Jade's favorite food is cheese, and she went a long period of time of not eating
She didn't
meat.
eat meat.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, tell me again, medical
Mhm.
people,
Mhm.
that these things aren't real. Okay.
Yeah. So, in any case, Sonny was a changed man. He'd been given a new heart. Whether that had anything to do with whose heart it was or just psychologically having a new heart is obviously is gonna have an effect on you.
I mean, it can't it's like it's yes and. It's
Yes, and
both.
agreed, agreed. Mhm. In 1996, about 18 months after the transplant, Sonny asked the South Carolina Organ Procurement Agency to forward a letter to the donor's family. His children thought it was a bad idea, but he did it anyway.
Okay.
He wanted to thank them. He wanted whoever had lost someone to know that the loss had meant something, that the heart was beating, and that the life it was keeping going was a good one, and that the gift had not been wasted.
Uh-huh.
The letter went to Terry's late wife, Cheryl, and Cheryl wrote back.
Mhm.
Eventually, the two exchanged photographs and eventually graduated to phone calls. In January of 1997, Sonny and his wife Elaine drove to Charleston to meet Cheryl Cottle, and Sonny could not keep his eyes off of her.
Uh,
He would later say, I fell in love with Cheryl the first time we met. He told friends he felt like he had known her for years.
okay.
At first, Cheryl's feelings were not mutual. That April, just a few months after they met, Cheryl married George Watkins, husband number 3. And Sonny Graham attended the wedding and
Uh-huh.
actually stood in for Cheryl's late father and gave her away.
Okay.
He sat at the reception table next to his wife Elaine and watched Cheryl become Cheryl Watkins. And he felt whatever it is you feel when you know you are in the wrong seat at the wrong wedding and there was nothing you could do about it.
Huh.
Cheryl had a son with George Watkins in January of 1999. Around that same time, Sonny's wife Elaine found out that Sonny had feelings for Cheryl that were not fatherly.
Mhm.
Sonny wrote Elaine a letter apologizing for being, as he put it, an SOB. And after 38 years together, Sonny and Elaine separated.
Holy shit.
hmm And very soon after that, Cheryl and George Watkins separated.
Mhm.
And after they were both divorced, Cheryl and Sonny moved into a trailer on land that Sonny had bought in his hometown while he was building a house to Cheryl's specifications while they lived in their temporary arrangement.
Because Cheryl's a fucking diva.
But that relationship only lasted 7 months.
Uh-huh.
In May of 2002, Cheryl left. Sonny then sued her, accusing her of defaulting on loans and refusing to return a diamond ring. She filed a counterclaim alleging that when she told him the relationship wasn't going to work, he became more possessive and threatening. In the middle of this lawsuit, Cheryl married again, husband number 4.
Wow.
Mhm.
Cheryl.
Cheryl, a corrections officer named John B. Johnson Jr. Mhm. Yeah.
You know how I feel.
If your last
John.
name is Johnson, don't name
Do
your
not
kid
name your
John.
kid John.
God damn it. Um, John B. Johnson was a correction officer at the prison where Cheryl was working as a nurse.
Okay.
That marriage deteriorated rapidly. Weird.
Okay. Sure. I said,
It's fucking Cheryl.
Cheryl, get
Mm.
it together, woman.
Mhm. On Thanksgiving 2003, deputies were called to their home, and both husband and wife accused the other of domestic abuse. So by August of 2004, Cheryl was back with Sonny.
Oh my God.
Mhm. Cheryl and Sonny got married on December 8th, 2004.
Marriage number 5.
Listen to the what the venue was called.
Okay.
At the Almost Heaven Resort.
You cannot make this shit up.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. Almost Heaven. Stop it. Oh my god. Okay. So, they moved to Vidalia, Georgia, where, Sonny started his landscaping company and hired Cheryl's 2 oldest sons as
And is he
employees.
still building this fancy house for her on the
I think
property?
so. I
Okay.
think so. Mhm. A few days before their second wedding anniversary, they attended an event at Hilton Head to honor organ donor families. The local newspaper ran a story about them. The headline read, "A love story unlike any told."
Okay.
Cheryl told the papers that it was true what the Bible says, that if you live God's will and give with a happy heart, you will reap the rewards. Sonny said he put his life in God's hands, and Cheryl was the answer to his prayers.
Fifth time's the charm?
Yeah.
Okay, Cheryl.
Mhm. What the newspaper story did not know, and what could only come out later, was that Sonny had bankrupted himself trying to maintain the life that Cheryl wanted.
Oh, Cheryl.
Mhm.
Oh, Sonny.
Mhm.
Wait, Sonny and
Sonny and Cher.
Cheryl?
Oh my god! Stop it!
Sonny and Cheryl, they're like the non-famous, like, doppelgangers of Sonny and
It's
Cher.
like the dollar store version of Sonny and Cher. Oh god.
Stop it.
Oh my god. Ah.
Okay.
Okay. Sonny bankrupted himself. He had blown through his
Yeah.
retirement savings. He had accumulated debts that were roughly triple his assets. He had once written in a letter that he was doing it to keep Cheryl in the style she wanted to live. His
Mhm.
friends noticed something had shifted. He wasn't the happy go lucky guy that they had always known him to be. He was 69 years old and he was tired. In the last weeks of his life, Sonny Graham was making preparations that he kept quiet. He drew up a will, gave it to his nephew Larry, and asked him to serve as the executor. When Larry asked if anything was wrong, Sonny said nothing was wrong at all, but that you never know, and he handed him a copy.
Mhm.
He put another copy into a briefcase that he kept on the shelf in the backyard shed. On March 20th, 2008, the 13-year anniversary of his transplant, the exact day Terry Cottle's heart had left his body and went into Sonny's, Sonny left a playful message on his old pastor's answering machine saying, quote, "Do you remember where you were 13 years ago on this day?" When Pastor Kelly called back, Sonny said he and his heart were doing great.
Mhm.
His friend Bill came down to Lyons the last week of February to fish the way they always had. Sonny didn't complain about anything, but something was off. Bill would say later that he just wasn't the happy go lucky guy I'd known all my life.
Uh-huh.
What Bill didn't know, what none of his friends knew at that point, was that about 6 days before his death, Cheryl had posted another man's photograph on her MySpace page identifying him as her new boyfriend.
On her MySpace page.
Mm-hmm.
How does
Mm-hmm.
Sonny even know that? Is Sonny on MySpace?
I don't know. Maybe someone tipped him off.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
One of
So
the
on that,
kids.
yeah, on that morning of April 1st, Sonny got up, drank his coffee with plans to take his stepson to the dentist and then go work his business. And that's when he went into his backyard shed and shot himself. In late April, shortly after Sonny's death, Cheryl visited an old friend named Tommy Hilton over drinks. She complained that Sonny Graham didn't leave her a dime.
That was her.
That was her complaint.
Cheryl, you now have two husbands who have left you by self-inflicted gunshot wounds. It's time to look inward. It's time for some self-reflection.
Mhm. 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 Yeah. Sonny's finances were in huge disarray. His nephew Larry said he had always assumed that his uncle was in solid financial standing, and he was shocked at what he saw after his
Right.
death. The Georgia Bureau of Investigations opened an inquiry into Sonny's suicide in May. Investigators didn't see anything that would have pointed to anything other than a suicide, but they were just alarmed that, Cheryl now has two deceased ex-husband.
Yes.
Mhm. What they found was a pattern of men in financial and emotional ruin.
Mhm.
The investigation was officially closed, ruling Sonny's death as suicide. No charges were ever filed. When the news broke, the internet had a field day. Two men, one heart, one wife, same method of death. It was the kind of story that writes itself. People reached immediately for cellular memory, for suicide genes, for the idea that something in that transplanted heart had carried Terry Cottle's fate into Sonny Graham's chest and ticked away there for 13 years like a bomb. Sonny's death may have been less about Terry's heart than about Cheryl, the woman with whom both men had chosen to share it with.
Mhm.
Terry Cottle died on March 20th, 1995. He was 33 years old. He's buried in South Carolina. His daughter Jessica and his two adopted sons, Christopher and Timmy, grew up without him. Sonny Graham died on April 1st, 2008. He was 69 years old. He left behind two children of his own, Gray and Michelle, and a network of friends and community members across Hilton Head and Vidalia who remember him as someone you called when you had a problem. Cheryl Graham never spoke publicly about either husband's death. That is my story of Sonny and Cher and Terry. That's wild, right?
That is wild. Where did you find that?
It came up on a reel on Facebook because, my
Oh.
algorithms now are like,
Yeah.
"We think
On
you'll like
point.
this weird shit." I'm like,
You're
"I
like,
do
"Yep,
like
I
that. I
do like
do.
that.
Thank
Yep.
you."
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mhm. Wild.
Mhm. Poor Sonny
Unbelievable. I
and
mean,
Terry.
both of them.
Mhm.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why, like, men are more likely to die by suicide is because they're more likely to use a gun.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wild.
Mhm. Yeah. Mhm.
Cheryl, sister, she
Just just stay single, Cheryl.
I mean, you don't gotta marry every guy.
No, you don't.
You don't have to marry any guy.
No. And also, you're a nurse. Get your own bougie house if you want a bougie house.
Right?
You're educated, you work, do your thing.
She's lost. She's lost.
She is.
Well, thanks for that, sister.
You're welcome.
We did it. Yay!
Yay. Join the Patreon. Be like
Do it.
Patty, Johnny Whiz, and Charlie.
Do it.
Do it.
It's $5 a month. You get a bonus episode every month. You get new episodes a day early every week. And every once in a while, we have a virtual wine night. We hang
We
out.
do. We
It's a
do.
good time. You can
Mm-hmm.
join the Patreon as a free member and still hang out over there and chit chat with us.
Sure.
That's cool too. That's
Yeah,
cool too.
yeah. We post pictures of the episodes and chit chat a little bit.
Mhm,
Do
mhm.
it,
You can write us a review or review us wherever
please.
you listen to us, but if you're on an Apple product, you can go into the Apple Podcast app and typey a
Typey,
review,
typey. Mhm.
which is amazing.
Sister, I
Oh,
love you.
I love you too so much. That was so chaotic.
It was so chaotic. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.